Welcome to the Blueprint Podcast, where we throw out the old blueprint so you can become who you were always meant to be. I'm your host, Jason Smith, and if you haven't already, make sure you click the subscribe button and share this podcast with your friends on social media and tag me in it at JBirdFit. Today, I have a very special guest for you, Amber Nelms. Amber is a board-certified behavior analyst, entrepreneur, and founder of Triangle ABA, where she leads a team dedicated to providing innovative and compassionate behavioral therapy. With a background in psychology and applied behavioral analysis, Amber is passionate about empowering individuals and families by fostering meaningful change. Beyond her clinical work, she's a mentor and advocate for ethical leadership, personal development, and growth, helping others unlock their potential through science-backed strategies. Today, we're diving into her journey and her philosophy that drives her work, and the lessons she learned along the way. Amber Nelms, welcome to the Blueprint Podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm really glad to have you. We were just talking about content as a whole and how the algorithm generally throws people in front of you every now and again that they think that you're going to connect with. And Instagram was right, because they put your content in front of me and you're out there running your little butt off and you're doing cold plunges, but you got the phone in your hand and you're running and you're providing all of this information that allows people to look at who they are, where they're going, what they're doing, and the why behind why they're doing it, which causes them to feel inspired in their own right. And they see you show up every day. I think you did it for the full year, and you might still be doing it.
I never stopped for 365 days. And I even traveled overseas. I had to do a couple of those shoots inside the airport. Super embarrassing. But it's also something I'm so proud of because I committed to it and I did what I said I was going to do.
That's the key to personal development as a whole,
Yeah.
right? It's making yourself a priority again, or maybe for the first time. And I love that you didn't stop yourself from doing it, because we always tend to stop ourselves when we hit some sort of pain threshold or something that's uncomfortable. So now you're in the airport and you're traveling and you know that you have to do this because you made a commitment to yourself. How
Mhm.
did you push through that upper limit for yourself?
That's a great question. My biggest way that I stayed focused on what I wanted was I actually realized it was for me. There's a couple of videos out there where I talk about that. It wasn't just about the audience, right? A lot of people get on social media and it's, I got to make money for this or got to make the reels. And I was like, I actually eventually changed the tagline to my Instagram right now, which is about the neuroscience of success that helps you create a better brain, body, and business. And that is what I did with the 365 challenge, is that I said, I know that if I stick with this, I'm going to be proud of myself. I'm going to gain confidence. I'm going to show myself that it doesn't matter how fucking hard it is, I'm going to show up. And yeah, maybe a lot of people won't see these videos, but I am changing and transforming my own mind and my own capabilities. And it has helped me so much in business. And that was one of the hardest things. I'm running a company of over 50 people and maintaining and keeping that going. And to wake up early and to commit to saying to do that,
Right.
it changed me in a lot of ways. I did see it change me over time. So I don't know if that really answered your question. Maybe indirectly I did, but that's the rationale behind it.
There's another threshold that you have to get past in that moment. And maybe you didn't, but I certainly did. And it's when you start delivering content and you're putting it out there, it's awful. It's so bad. But of course, at the time, the people in your real life, they might see it every now and again. You think you have people blocked, but you don't. No, I'm just kidding. But they end up seeing it and they're just like, oh, what are you doing, man? That's so bad. Who do you think you are? And you go through and you read the books, you get your master's degree and you go through life and you challenge yourself. You continue to grow, expand, develop, and evolve, which is why we were put on the earth to begin with. Ultimately, you begin to look at your own story and your narrative of how you see the world and your place in it. You realize that just people like yourself are struggling, and they need to see regular everyday people that are going through stuff and that are doing the work.
Yep.
And what that looks like. And it's uncomfortable and it's ugly and it's gross sometimes, but that's the work. Now you can go back 3 years and see how bad it was to where I am today with all the things that I've created, and over 640,000 people that follow the content across all platforms. And it's that you're making a difference, because now there's something more tangible. It's in the comment section, it's in your reviews, it's in the testimonials, it's everywhere. For me, it's an overwhelming feeling, at first, because when you look at it, it's like, oof, that's a lot of responsibility to continue to show up and to
Yeah.
do this work and to share your story with other people. But at the same time, there's new people that find your stuff all the time. That's really the point to all of this. I don't want people to stick around forever. I want people to see the content, get the value they can from it, and then transition and move on to something bigger and greater for themselves.
I love that. I love that goal. Yes. I really relate it with what you said on the idea of that, because people would judge you when you put yourself out there. What are you
Yeah.
doing? That's so cringeworthy. I don't understand it. But that's the one thing that always keeps me going a lot of times is I realize I know what one of my life purposes is. It is to inspire others. There needs to be an example out there of somebody that maybe people didn't think could do any of those things. Like had a very low self-esteem, probably, let's see how many years ago, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I did not believe in myself. I didn't think I was capable of anything. I never thought I would be anybody. Not that anybody means anything, but whatever the world considers is successful, a lot of people would say that. But I didn't think that could be possible for me. And that is what really hits me and it makes me realize I want to keep putting myself out there because if I am willing to do that and show people as an example of it is possible. You can change your life. You can make things happen. You can overcome completely debilitating self-esteem issues to go from somebody that thinks terrible things about themselves to believe that they're capable. You can overcome that. And yes, it's scary putting yourself out there, but I will tell you this, Jason. One of the things that has impacted me the most is realizing and listening to other people's stories, like David Goggins, right? Like you see the running thing, like I read his whole book and he has significantly affected from ADHD. He struggled a lot. He didn't believe in himself. And so he was willing to put himself out there. He was willing to say, I'm going to tell my story. And I always think, thank you. Thank you for being willing. Because when I was very low and I didn't think that, I would listen to those different podcasts or read different things. And I was like, okay, I can do this. It doesn't matter how hard it is to overcome. Other people have. I'm going to follow in their footsteps. And I will one day, which I do believe that is me now, I will stand up and be that example for other people so that they can realize I can do it too.
I want people to know that each time you change, each time you go past an upper limit, your life will get better. But it's
Yeah.
not without other challenges where other things will start to fade away and drift away because you no longer resonate with it. It's no longer an energetic match to who you're becoming. And in that stage, it can be extremely lonely because you have the friend group and they might not be supporting you and pushing you forward and helping you out. And then there's this person that you're becoming and you're not quite sure who that is just yet. And it seems so far into the future. And you're in this stage where you're just like, you're still growing, developing, evolving, and changing. And it's hard, it's difficult, and it's lonely, which is why you have to have a really good sight picture and a target in the future of who you really want to be and where you're going. And when you know that, then you can come back to the present moment, ground yourself in this present moment, and get to work. It's those
Yes.
things that you do consistently over long periods of time that help you get to that place that might be a lot closer than you think, but you have to do the work in the present to get there.
Oh, that's some deep stuff right there. I very much agree with that. I was listening to one of those motivational speakers one time and it stayed with me forever. And I heard it on another podcast the other day. He was like, and I actually figured out who the guy was. I was like, oh, cool. So I like looked him up because I had just heard it randomly. And then I didn't get to know who the person was that originally brought the thought up. But the whole idea of most people say, I want to have this thing and they like feel like they never can get to it and they talk about it like I want to have this and instead the way that you get to have is you have to decide to be before that thing even happens. You have to you just have to be. So I remember when I started, I committed to myself. I was like, I am going to be fitness like influencer level in shape. I had a thing in my brain. I was like, I'm going to
Right.
do that. I'm going to figure it out. I am going to be a motivational speaker. I mean, and I said, okay, I'm going to do these things. Here are all of the things I want to do. I want to continue to grow my business. I want to continue to learn everything it takes to be able to do business coaching. And so like when you set it out and you decide, it doesn't matter if I don't have that right this present moment, like you said, I'm going to be that thing right now. And guess what? You eventually are that thing, but you have
Yeah.
to start right now in the present.
Yeah. And you have to be willing to take some flack from some other people in your life that are going to challenge you. They're going to test you.
Yeah,
And those tests are really important because it'll speak to your mental fortitude and your willingness to do this thing that you say that you want to do.
it's very true. I am very thankful that you asked me to be on this podcast. I have learned a lot listening to a lot of your content. You're a man that does not stop learning. So I appreciate spending time in your presence right now.
Thank you for that. That's
Yeah.
very you. It's one of those things I'm working on and taking nice things from other people because people don't often compliment people enough. I feel like that's such a huge thing. And so giving and receiving compliments is one of those things that I think a lot of us do need to work on, especially in a world where everything seems like a struggle these days. A lot of hardship, uh, anger, frustration, irritation, sadness, loneliness, depression. It's just imagine taking a moment like you just did to acknowledge just another human being for being who they are and showing up as their full selves. Like what difference that would make in someone's life today.
That would be a good challenge to give yourself. I do love challenges. I feel wouldn't it be a good challenge? You'd be like, wait a minute, reflect every day on the people you interact with.
Yeah.
And can you give them something that you just observe inside of them about who they are, even if you don't know them well, right? You
Yeah.
can spend a moment just like really watching them and seeing something that is very admirable about who they are. And how much better would that be for them that you paid attention to them instead of being in your own head, right? Most of
Yeah.
us, when even right now, it'd be very easy for you to be like, oh, what is she saying? I'm going to have to edit that out. Or, oh dear, got to ask Blaine another question. Or for me to be like, what am I saying? How does my hair look?
Right.
Or the thing, instead of just being present and being like, hey, this is so cool. I'm spending time with somebody that really wants to live a life where they make a difference. They've learned a lot. That came in my brain for a second. I was like, man, I should really appreciate how cool that is. That he's learned a lot and I get to be around him right now. And he's been that type of person.
So what you just said, that's that inner nudge, right? We need to learn to listen to that. We don't do that enough because you'll be in the presence of someone, you'll be in a situation or a circumstance, and it can be challenging or not just a regular everyday circumstance. And you'll get a little nudge and it'll be, you should say this or you should do this. It's in those moments that you really need to pay attention because that is you being tapped in, tuned in, and turned on to your environment. Really, what you're doing is you're picking up the signal from other people, and it might be what they need to hear in the moment. You might be a stranger, or maybe you're a really close friend, but you recognize that's something that needs to be said. And if you would just say it, and we stop ourselves far too often from doing that, that's really a barrier to connection because we do stop ourselves. So imagine just for a second if you didn't stop yourself and you allowed yourself to be like Jim Carrey and Yes Man. Gotta say it. And so you put it out there. But I started doing that and you realize just what a difference you can make in people's day. They'll even tell you, how'd you know I needed to hear that today?
Yeah. I know your podcast and your different content talks a lot about trauma too.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much we're going to get into that today, but I've been through a lot of significant things in my life. And what you were just describing right now, I would consider like being able to listen to your intuition.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest factors from at least like I've read and also experienced to really help myself is being able to trust myself and my own intuition, be able to really listen to it and to do daily practices that allow me to pay attention to that. Because most of us are so conditioned in our subconscious to just live out the narratives and stories somebody else thinks is a good idea for us. Or society says, yeah, this is your gender and this is your thing. This is most likely what you're supposed to do, not what you really want. Can you slow down and really ask yourself, what do you actually want? Not what you think you need to be, not what you think everyone expects you to be. What do you want deep inside?
Yeah.
And I've been listening to this really good book. I'm always reading. Of course, because I'm growing my business, but it also is a lot about entrepreneurism. And I was reading a book called The Ideal Team Player on how to hire the right people. I've been reading the book 10X is Better Than 2X.
It's a good book.
It's a great book. And then How to Buy Back Your Time is another really good book. That one is a fantastic book. And really, like in 10X is Better Than 2X, I was listening to it again, reflecting, and it is essential that if you really want to change your life, you cannot just keep rushing around doing what you've always been doing just a little faster. Sit back and
Right.
ask yourself and design really that larger vision. Because if you say, this is what I really want, if I was to say, nothing can hold me back, and I put that in front of me, it actually helps your vision be a lot sharper. I did that recently for even relationship stuff. I wrote down very specific. I know that's another part of your podcast too. I wrote down really detailed, and it was crazy because it made me get on different types of apps, because I was like, no, like a Hinge app is not going to work, or it's not going to work, but for what I actually want. And I put myself in the right environment and do the things and say, nope, you're not in the right profession. You're not in the thing. We're not going to be relate. That's not really what I want. I know I could have somebody, but that's not what I want. No, I'm going to stay with what I want and sharpen that vision. So then all the other things become a no, and then only a couple of things become the yes.
Oh, you have been listening. Look at that.
Sorry, you can ask no more questions. I'm just like speaking.
This is great. So, yeah, but
Right.
this type of stuff is so much better than the questions I generally have. I like being able to riff on random things, and it's not
What are
really
your
random.
normal questions when you've had on that?
Oh, we always go chronologically and in people's background but sometimes people have a story or they have things that they're passionate about. And we start off like this and that becomes the podcast. And I'm always cool with that. But you mentioned something very important there, and it's that ability to zoom out. When you're in a challenging circumstance, problem, issue, concern in your life, you have to take on that third party observer and actually picture yourself zooming out. Now you're behind yourself. You can literally see yourself in the circumstance and begin to evaluate it and assess it for what it actually is and what you need to learn from that particular scenario. And is there any information here that I can glean that's going to be important to operating in the future? If I can do that, now I can start making a better plan for myself, which is what you did with the apps. So this isn't for me. So this becomes a no. Understanding your NO is equally as important as knowing your no, your KNOW, and having those two things be in alignment with one another, because you know what you want, you know where you're going, you know what you're doing, you know why you're doing it. You want somebody that's going to enhance your life and come into your life and not cause you a bunch of problems or issues because they're not vibrating at the same frequency that you are. We've all been in those positions where you're with someone and I saw this video the other day and it was a really good representation that it's easier for somebody to pull you down. They had one person standing on the floor and another up on a chair, and they're reaching up and they pull the other person down. And it's how easy was that? But the person standing on the chair, was really hard to try and pull that person up because they keep tugging you backwards. What just a great metaphor for life in that moment, that you really have to look at the people that you're spending time with and that you're inviting into your inner circle, because they will bring you down.
Yeah, it's true. Have you ever heard that stat with that if you sit within 25 feet of a low performer, it decreases your performance? I think like something by 30% or something.
Yeah, I did see that
Massive.
recently. Yeah.
And then, of course, the other way around, it increases. Like if you're beside a top performer, you might then increase. That's why I'm so passionate about making sure I have the right teammate, even in a field that's extremely competitive. It is so competitive to get staff with my credentials. There's not enough of them that have it, and I really want to scale my company across. I want to be the largest board certified behavior analyst company in the nation. That's the goal.
So let's talk about that for a little bit. What does your company do exactly? What's its name? What's the
Sure.
primary focus?
Technically, I actually have two companies. So I have Triangle ABA. It is the business I've been running for almost the last 5 years. It is a autism therapy company. or people that are more familiar with the field, an ABA therapy company. My schooling background, I have my master's in applied behavior analysis. And then you have to take a board exam, and that allows you to become, and you pass, you become a board certified behavior analyst. Most people don't know, I should also say, ABA is the most effective therapy out there for kids on the spectrum. My own son was diagnosed with autism when he was young, which is why I became a board certified behavior analyst. So that's actually another huge why. Everything I've done in my life has been a big why. Like, I don't have like random reasons for things like, oh, I think I'll do this. It's highly passionate. There's a big reason for my why, but it's also what gets me up. And it gets me excited because I'm like, I have to do boring things every day as the CEO of Triangle ABA sometimes. I have to do emails, but I'm like, I'm changing kids' lives. I get kids speak, can't play with others, and now they have friends and they life. And that's what ABA did for my own son's life. He was nonverbal when he first started. He didn't have friends. He was in ABA about 2 years and it changed his life. He was speaking, friends, and he has never even had to have an IEP now. I don't know if you're familiar with
Mm-mm.
that. But that is often what a lot of kids on the spectrum have to still have in schools and public schools. They have to have an individual education plan, and I didn't have to do that. He just was able to continue to figure out how to make things work in a typical developing classroom
And
now. So he's 15 now.
no, I
Has
was
a
just gonna say, what is the core framework for ABA for those who are unclear on that?
I guess I could just do what the acronym is and then try to make it not be too boring. But basically, the first A stands for
Mhm.
applied. The B is behavior. And the last part is analysis. So the applied basically means like we're going to only change behavior that's really relevant to somebody's life. Don't do stupid shit. Don't try to like, don't change the way the person sits or something. Like, why is that helpful for their life? Like, only choose things that are going to really change their life. Like a big thing, many years ago, there's controversy around ABA because any sort of psychology field, there's been different practices that just people have done that are just silly when you look back on it. And it is a very powerful science. You can change people's behavior really well with it, but you shouldn't change behavior that isn't going to make a big difference in care for that own person's life, right? So a example of that is a lot of people on the spectrum tend to have self-stimulatory behaviors. And so many years back, there were just some silly people that didn't always hold on to what's really relevant to actually target. So you don't need to stop somebody from moving their hand like this. How is that really relevant to their lives long term, right? Unless they ask, hey, I would really like when I'm hanging out with my friends, maybe not to do this anymore. But they would, everybody would want to be able to communicate. So we should focus our energy on that. And then behavior is very observable, meaning behavior analysts are supposed to focus on things they can measure and see in the environment. So that is a core part of it too. Like instead of the hypothesizing, it's very like the science of behavior. So if I want to track and change something, I should be able to see it in the environment. And the analysis part is this also the science part is that we actually graph everything that we do to actually prove whether it's effective or not. Because we don't want to just do something and
Right.
not see like the intervention we're putting in place. Let's see what it actually can do. Let's see if it actually makes a difference. Let's track every single time we train a response. And then a huge part of behavior analysis is also rewarding behavior. And most people just don't know. ABA is just how human beings work. It's actually how all living organisms actually work. It's how behavior happens. Like what you do or I do is shaped. Like, why are we on this
Yeah.
podcast? There's some reward in it, or we wouldn't do it. Everybody's behavior, you do a behavior, if it's rewarded, you're going to be doing more of that behavior. So we specifically go out of our way to say we're going to target these behaviors and we're going to, after they do that behavior, we're going to reward it. So then they'll learn, oh, when I talk, great things happen. I'm going to keep talking and keep learning this. But people on the spectrum tend to oftentimes do really well with applied behavior analysis because they find other things rewarding outside of maybe the typical social context, but it's not to say they can't learn those other things are rewarding. But without that other shaping, maybe they would never learn how to speak, how to use the toilet, how to do a lot of things. Hopefully that wasn't
No,
too
not at
traumatic.
all. But I'm curious, do you have any stories of success that you could share with us of someone that has gone through this and that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, sure. I guess my own kid, he's very successful. That's a big one. I've had plenty, I can't share specific kids'
Sure.
names because that's a HIPAA
Yeah.
violation, but I've had multiple kids come through our program and be able to graduate out and they no longer need services and go into a typical developing classroom, which I think is
Yeah,
a
it's
huge
huge. Yeah.
victory. It's a huge victory. And not everyone can have that story. Sometimes people don't hear about ABA until they're 8, 9, 10. But I've had even somebody come to me and their child was 12 years old. I'll never forget doing his assessment and he barely looked at me. He kept his head down. He hardly said a word. He couldn't answer and go back and forth in any sort of conversation. No place, which is another interesting thing about in Raleigh where I'm at. A lot of private equity companies are not taking in older kids, which is really
Hmm.
sad and terrible because it's just not as
Yeah.
easy and they only just want to make money. They don't care. But anyway, he came and he graduated out. He spent the last 2 years. I'll never forget later on. I want to say his name. I'm not allowed to. But I was like, oh my goodness. At the end, before he graduated up, he was looking straight at my face, so excited to tell me things. He was asking me questions without any prompting from his staff. No prompting. He was just asking me questions about things. And I was thinking, this is a kid that would never even look up, didn't know how to ask any back and forth questions. And now he's going to be able, like, these are the skills that are going to help him have friends. I don't know if you've ever seen stuff on Netflix. Like, people have a big misnomer about kids on the spectrum. They assume they don't want friendships or relationships. It's just not true. They do want that. So making sure a good ABA company, which Triangle ABA is, if you have a child on the spectrum in Raleigh, Garner, we are going to open in Texas. If you do have someone you're a family that needs help, come talk to me. We are taking in some more clients and we do it out of heart and real understanding. Yeah, I think we're one of the best
Yeah,
around.
and it's one of those things for people that are listening. It's never a bad thing to at least get an initial assessment or to have that discovery call
Yeah.
to see what the offerings are and what the capabilities of your operation actually are. And then, of course, to talk about some more specific outcomes that what is the potential
Mhm.
for my child, your child to be able to go through these services and have a very specific and
Mhm.
desired outcome.
Yeah, you already understand it. Very good. So yes, that is Triangle ABA. And yeah, and then my second company I just opened, I should say I co-founded that company. It's called
Okay.
Coco. It's with, should I stop talking about the company?
No,
Something else?
the name, why Coco?
Coco is basically just stands for like clinician owned
Uh-huh. I
companies.
like it.
And so, like I said, I'm very passionate. Unfortunately, my field, it's 90% not owned by BCBAs. Most at the people at the top actually don't know what the treatment is, which I think I don't have and private equity in maybe like the tech space or other areas. It's not hard. I don't see that as harmful. I am very passionate about helping medical providers, which is part of my business coaching, is I continue to always want to help medical providers that choose to be business owners. I do want to coach you up and be able to help you be able to learn business, learn that part, but you actually do know what is good treatment. So if my BCBAs come and tell me I worked on this program and all the things, I'm like, I understand it. I know what it is. But I also did basically my second master's in business so they can be safe at a place where they can actually know somebody understands and cares about the training, but I can take care of them from a business perspective. But I do think if clinicians are going to own companies, then they're going to have to learn the business. You can't have both. You can't say, I want to own the company, but I don't want to learn about it. You have to choose. If that's what you're going to do, you have to learn both of them.
Interesting. I've started thinking like, so from a business standpoint, what does that actually look like to be clinician owned versus the alternative? What's the benefit?
What I just said, if you're owned by private equity or venture capitalists, your biggest thing is, let me scale it, cut everything that they don't think makes sense financially, and then sell it to somebody else.
And like
How
you're tethered to
could
their
you?
initiatives along with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have to pay back investors too. So if you think about that, the pressure to grow at a level that's not going to really develop people or care for them is scary.
And that can cause you to then also not have some of the best practices that might be out there.
Oh, yes, there's a huge problem right now where all these companies are basically doing all like virtual telehealth supervision. Not that you can't ever do that. I'm not against you ever doing that. But if it's like 100% and you never have a board certified behavior analyst on staff and it's people from all over just coming in the portal, and like, how is that going to develop better behavior analysts for the future and also protect and help kids on the spectrum have high quality
Yeah.
services? My child I didn't even know, like, the field had changed so much. When my child got services, it was at a clinician owned company. The lady was a board certified behavior analyst. She cared a lot. She understood it, and she wanted the families to be successful. And I just got the privilege of having that opportunity. I didn't know that there was other types of companies, and the company I worked at before starting my own got bought out.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
opens you up to more personalized care for the individual.
Yep.
Yes. Which at the end of the day is the goal, right? It's to help the individual.
Yeah. And actually see them and actually know their story and understand who they are and see them make a big difference long term. And yeah, it's great to do financially, and that's awesome. But if you aren't transforming people's lives and improving their lives, you're going to live a pretty miserable life, in my opinion. So knowing that's just what I think. And we all have different
Yeah.
things. But yeah.
Got to raise that level of standard of care. That's for sure.
So yes, the Cocoa Company is with Dr. Joshua Levine. He's also a board certified behavior analyst, and it's about bringing other BCBA owners together and then really talking about these issues and saying, how do we continue to grow and scale our companies in a ethical way and not feel the pressure to just say, oh, I gotta, like, successful means I sell out, because those different companies, they call me all the time and say, sell it to us. You'll get
Yeah.
this money. It'll be so much easier. It'll be
Like, no,
so
I'm
much
good.
easier. And I'm like,
Yeah.
leave me alone so I could stay focused. I know it'll be easier, but that's back to my brand. Like, easy isn't always the best thing. If you choose the easy now, you'll have a harder future. Don't choose the easy path now. Be willing to do the harder, to grow your skills, to grow to that next level, because that's where the real joy comes from, when you overcome that and you grow to that next level. If you choose the easy way out, you shortcut all of the
And
learning.
let's talk about brand building for a minute. What has that
Yes,
looked like for you? Because a lot of people are out there, they're listening. They might be in this place where they're curious about clinician owned. Branding is scary, and putting yourself out there is something that's extremely challenging. So, what has your journey through like the marketing process and just developing your brand looked like?
that's a great question.
Because it's not
Well,
easy.
I just no, it's
Yeah.
not easy. I think it really comes down to back to, again, the setting that vision. I knew what I wanted to set as my core values, and I changed my life to make sure that it was in line with those core values. And so then any projects or different things like I put out there, like I mixed. If you listen to what I just said about like Coco and remember my challenge of the 365, you see how I combine them? The same thing, they all go together. So I know what I stand for and what I want to represent when I'm talking to people, because I'm actually living out that life. And I really want to make sure I answer your question properly. What does that look like, being able to
To
have
go from no brand to
to
a
a
brand.
brand? I think a lot of people will, like, back to what you said, Jason, they're gonna think you're crazy. A lot of people are like, what the frick are you doing, lady? You're already really busy. Why would you work on a personal brand, or why would you post on
Yeah.
social media? Because I also just see the value in giving people content specifically about who I am and what I'm bringing to the table, because I want more leaders and more people like me. That's inspiring to me.
Yeah.
It and also I was realizing there's not a lot of people that do it. There's a big white
Yeah.
space for it. Most people don't see, and I do think that's one benefit. I spend a lot of time around Gen Z,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
helps me a lot, right? So Gen Z is much more open to being in social media. I had a phase where I probably shouldn't say that. Never mind. But I am a millennial, but I understand and function some things in Gen Z world and understand it, and that has helped me. So I think a lot of millennials are like, "Ah, social media, what is
Right.
this? I don't." And so it's just also being open minded and saying you don't have to be on Oprah to grow your
Right.
personal brand. You
And
know.
I think that's really important for people to recognize if you're thinking about building out a brand is acknowledging that you don't need 100,000 or more followers. What you need is a
Yeah.
small engaged group that's really interested in the services that you have to provide and they're curious
Mm-hmm.
about it. They're going to ask questions. They're going to be in your DMs and in your comments all the time, wanting to know what it is that you do and how they can be a part of it and where do I go to learn more. As long as you're being engaged with those people that are already following you, you're going to grow over a long period of time, but it's not going to happen overnight more often than not, especially when you're in a place that is so niche that might not be available to other people. They look at it and they're just like, that's not necessarily for me. And that's okay because you're only interested in the people that want to be there and learn more.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and I could think that a lot of people think it's, oh, do you just care about seeing yourself on the thing? I'm like,
No.
no, I think there's a lot of women that are out there that doesn't have to be my gender. I think I have a mix of male and females that follow me, but I think it's great that people, like we said back before, is people need examples of people that are going to say, I'm going to put myself out there. There's somebody out there that's looking to grow and scale their business. If you would share your story, you could impact a lot of people's lives and inspire them to get back up, not give up, keep going, learn more, not stop, and change people's
And for the
lives.
people that say, oh, that's so cringe, be cringe, right? That's the whole point to all of this, right? You're
Yeah.
putting yourself out there. It can be uncomfortable at times. It's uncomfortable for other people, but when it's uncomfortable for the other person, for the viewer, that's for you to really start tugging on those strings inside of yourself to figure out where is that coming from? What does this person that I'm viewing on the screen right now represent inside of myself? And can I recognize that? Can I create
Mm,
awareness around that? When you do, you'll begin to realize. I was talking to another male content creator in the space, and I said, years ago, I looked at your stuff and I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Like, what gives you the right to be doing what you're doing? It's so interesting because this
yeah.
wasn't a life path for me at the time. I wasn't even thinking about developing any type of social media content, but you see it and you just pass by and it's whatever, but it makes you feel something. But then you get curious
Mm,
about it. So then you dive a little bit deeper. And then of course, life changes, things shift, and you come back across the content, you realize that there's actually a ton of value there for you. And it's so funny because I get those messages now where a year ago I didn't like you and I didn't like your content. And of course they come back and they're like, you know what? I really struggled a year ago, but your content really helped me get through a really challenging time in
mm,
my life. And your perspective shifted mine. And it's yeah,
mm,
that's how we lift each other up. That's the whole point.
mhm. I was listening to something the other day where, and I do think this is true, as you continue, and I think you said this earlier in the podcast, as like you continue to shift to the next level and become the next
Mhm.
version of yourself, guess what? You're going to have a decent amount of people. And if you don't make people feel uncomfortable in your presence, and you're probably not doing a lot of shit. You should make that's what you want. You want the about probably 80% of most people to feel like, I don't want to be around her. But the 20% that you do attract, those are the people you're like, all right, we're going to go do some stuff. We're going to change the world together. I want to be in the same room with you. Now, a lot of other people, they're like, I don't want to be around them. They drive me crazy. They're like into doing stuff, trying to grow and learn, trying to push themselves. I hate them. They drive me nuts. Or they're asking questions that make me think I don't want to be around them, right? But if you have too many people that are like, I love them, like probably not pushing, asking questions, not being really somebody that's going to make an impact, there should have a little bit of that happening.
Yeah. It's also putting yourself in rooms that you think that you don't belong in. I did that a few years back, and what an amazing experience that was to be able to see somebody that I admire up on stage that I've been looking forward to as a keynote speaker, and then also being
Mhm.
around other people in the room that were there for the exact same reason. And we're all at different
Mm,
stages of what we're doing. I was at the very beginning stages of all of this, and there were people that were much further along, but there's so much that you get from that experience of being in the room with those people, especially when there's breakout sessions and then other time periods where there's just an intermission and you're outside and you're talking and getting to know their business, their attitude, their philosophy, where they're going, what they're doing, why they're doing it, and the how behind how they're doing it. And it's just like all of a sudden the wheels start turning. You're like, I could do this, I could do that. And you start becoming
yes.
more expansive and it lifts you up. And all of a sudden there was this barrier in front of your eyes and you couldn't see through it before. And just with these
Mhm.
conversations, you elevate upward and you begin to see over that barrier of all these other opportunities that are actually out there for you. But it's just
Yep.
waiting for you to elevate yourself.
I love it. Yes, I think I did a recent video where I said something about that. I was like, "You gotta get yourself
Yeah.
in the room. You gotta put yourself in the ring. Put yourself in that room. It's worth it. Taking the effort." I have definitely learned that you put yourself around people that are pushing in and growing and asking themselves hard questions, you can't but help but come back from a moment of reflection. And also, when somebody's doing shit, you're both doing shit, that person's not gonna be, how do I say it? Not draw negative or trying to hold you back. They're gonna be like, they're just gonna be
Yeah.
excited for
It comes down to we're not in competition. And that's the whole thing.
you. Yeah.
Like you drop the competition piece of this, and it's I don't have to see you as competition. I know who I am. I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing. I know why I'm doing it. I know what my mission and vision is,
Yeah.
and you're not me. Now, that's not from a conceited perspective. It's just the fundamental truth. You're not me. So the people that
Yeah.
are attracted to me and my content, it's because of me. I am the brand, my face, the beard. Like that's what people take a walk with me. Nobody else can do that because it's not my voice, it's not my tonality, it's not my demeanor. So in that, there's no competition. Now we might be in the same or similar space, and that's fine, but there's plenty of room out there. I was talking to somebody else, content creator. How many people do you think that you can help with your one-on-one coaching in 20 years? Turns out to be like 250 people. How many people are on social
Mhm.
media? Billions, right? And so you have access to impact millions to billions through your content, but to actually do it in a one-on-one space where it's a little bit more intimate and you're making fundamental change in someone's life, it's very few in the grand scheme of things. So for everybody that's
Mhm.
out there and you have this desire, this burning desire inside of you, and you want to do something like this, build the brand, build the Instagram, put yourself out there, start making content, be cringe. It's
I agree.
okay. Right. And as you
Mm.
do that, people are going to connect with who you are as a person because you're the brand.
I am very that back to the thing about encouraging others. Thank you for being one of those people that reached out to me on Instagram and it not being all about you. You encouraged me and you were
Thanks.
like, okay, I'll keep it going. And you're using your platform to enhance and help other people. So thank you
Appreciate
for that.
that. The goal here with the content is to find people that are doing things that have a really good story of growth and resilience. They've made some changes in their life. They've taken the deep dive into personal development and they decided to
Mhm.
bet on themselves. And
Mm, yes.
that's huge, right? So, w-
Yes. I like that.
where in your
Yes.
life have you really bet big on yourself? Yeah.
Are you
And it can
asking
be
me a
at different
question?
stages of your life because I think we do often make a lot of pivots where you're forced to bet on yourself.
As a good, I would say over and over again, I've done that to bet on myself when I decided to no longer stay in the marriage that I was in and say, I'm going to choose to believe in myself and believe that there could be a better future and that I can grow this business and develop myself and become the person that can run this in a way that is sustainable and I'm not going to live in fear for the rest of my life. That was a bet on myself.
Yeah. That's a major
Um,
pivot. That's a shift. It is. It's the end of a timeline. And for a lot of people, that can be really difficult to even mourn the idea that I was on this timeline with this person doing this thing, going down this path, and this was the expectation. It was supposed to be for the rest of my life. Now, all of a sudden, I'm here and I'm forced to make this decision that I'm going to shift out of this. I'm going to pivot and do something else. Again, it's grabbing that sight picture of the future and allowing yourself to entertain even the thought that you could potentially be somebody else outside of that marriage.
Yeah, it was very hard. I'll never forget when I decided. I found a rented house and I didn't even get the beds all the way yet in time when I decided. I packed up everything. I only had, I didn't have, I started over completely. I only put clothes and a couple pots and pans and started over. And I slept on an air mattress for a couple nights until I got some beds in, and then was able to bring the kids to stay with me. And it was really hard. I remember thinking, oh my goodness, because I had been married for
Yeah.
14 years. And that's a whole other change of your life. And I remember being like, "Oof," to stay in a just even the simple thing, stay in a house all by yourself when you've been married, it's just totally different. And I was terrified to change my life, but I'm glad that I did, because it wasn't healthy where I was at. And I knew that I needed to make a change, and I'm glad that I did. And I'm really thankful that you had me on here. I really appreciate you. Oh.
So what's the next big change that you're tackling, either personally or professionally?
Professionally, like I said, I'm learning all of what it takes to scale the business to the next level. To have in the next 3 years, I want to have 2 more clinics within North Carolina and 1 out of state clinic in Texas, which is quite the task. So that means hiring the right people. I want to continue to develop board certified behavior analysts to actually know how to coach and help other people. So I want to continue to develop people underneath of me and them to do the same and give them those skills to be able to do that, because we study all about the science of behavior, but we study nothing about emotional IQ, nothing about real leadership. So that end, I want to be going out to conferences across the United States, top, because there, of course, every field has like continuing education courses. So I want to develop a continuing education content for at those different conferences and be able to tell people more and more about more the neuroscience of success and how you develop that within your staff and how you can build that out and give people really that resilient type of mind and have the skill sets to develop leaders within their company. And what is real leadership? I will say, I'm sorry if this is
No,
going
you're
on too
good.
long, but I'm horrified. Like in my field, there's a lot of companies that say, oh, leadership is a title, basically. They're like, we have a leadership pipeline for any of our clinical directors or regional directors. And I want to be like, oh my goodness. That's what happens when you have a bunch of people that have never studied these
Yeah.
concepts before. They're just falling hook, line, and sinker for this bullshit. You don't know what a leader is then,
Right.
because a leader is somebody that can do actions through somebody else and lift them up to the next level and have them follow them. So in my company, a behavior technician taught these skills is a leader because they have a client that's right beside them and they're guiding and they're helping
Yeah.
them. That is what I want us to continue to push the field towards and to understand. And I will be at the forefront of what that
Yeah.
looks
It's
like.
not just following policy, directives, and statutes. It is
Yep.
a way of being.
Or a way of being. And it's not a title. I'm just horrified to think. So then just a board certified behavior analyst is that your company isn't a leader? No wonder they burn out. No wonder they can't lead and guide families underneath of them. No wonder we're not making a big difference. Actually, I don't know that I want some of these other companies to hear. And I mean, it's okay. I guess it'll get out there. I'm going to be doing it at conferences.
I was going to say, so what you're saying is you're open to some keynote speaking.
100%. That's on my, yes, that's where I'm going. And obviously coaching other CEOs that own medical practices on how to have both happening at the same time. How do you keep your heart but grow your business?
I think that's the mic drop. I love that. That's
How do you keep your heart and grow your
That is a perfect place to end the podcast. Amber Nelms, tell everybody how to reach you and how to work with you.
You can reach me at amber@triangleaba.com is my email. If you want to email me directly for any speaking engagements or any services, for if you have a child on the spectrum and you're in North Carolina, I've got your back. I'm going to help you. You could also check out our website at triangleaba.com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn, Amber Nelms. So those are the different places that I think are your best bet. I'm happy to help. Intake at Triangle ABA if you want to specifically get services for your child. But my email, I think, is the best for any of the other things on business coaching, on if you want to join the COCO initiative, speaking engagements, all of the things. I'm here for you. I'm here to make a difference in a lot of people's lives. And I've continued to grow my own self.
I love it.
So, yeah.
And guys, if you're looking for personal inspiration, go follow her Instagram and show a little bit of love.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, follow me, Amber Nelm _ on Instagram and then also on TikTok. Yes, follow me on there because I do a lot of good content on there as well. Thank you for
Amber,
bringing that
thank
up.
you so much for being here today. It was great to meet you.
Yes, thank you for your time.